this is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone and welcome to Apex Racing TV's coverage of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series here for round number 4 of the championship here at the Le Mans circuit here on iRacing Esports Network. Alongside me tonight as always is Daniel Leet. Welcome Daniel. We haven't been here since the 7th round of the championship here in season 9 of the AMF GT Series. What are your thoughts heading into the 45 minutes of racing action coming up here tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Scott, and all the viewers tuning in. Mate, I'm really looking forward to this one. We saw last time out round 7, a fantastic race between all the cars throughout the course of the field, and I think we're going to see a lot of similar racing again tonight. We've got a really strong field out here tonight with just on 53 cars in the server at the moment, so a really strong grid of GTEs going around.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just coming up to under 1 minute of warm-up left in the session. And just looking at the last round that we were here, it was Dominic Ferreras taking out that win ahead of the second place driver in the championship in the end of Stephen Lattimore, and then rounding out the podium was Nathan Huppets. Craig Edwards, our champion, was in 4th, and Cody Bird rounding out the top 5. So it was some very, very close action all the way throughout the field, and certainly in for that tonight with 20 seconds left just before the start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw some a really good mix of cars last time out with the Ferraris, Fords, BMWs, all up towards the sharp end. The Porsches are maybe a little further down than where they'd ideally like to be. I mean, we say further down, not far at all. The first Porsche was in 9th place, so they were pretty well up in the points. Looking at the grid at the moment, or from the warm-up times, we're seeing the BMWs be very strong again. Porsche up there in the hands of Ben Arthur as well, so we could see a bit of a shake-up here.
Yeah, certainly. Just waiting for the grid to be populated, and then we'll be able to take you through the starting grid for 4th round of Season 10's Aussie Mixed and Fixed Championship. And on the pole position we have Neil Pearson, who is on the pole position, and alongside him is Jack Anderson. Ray Oliver sits in 3rd position. Phil Otto in 4th position for DPR Racing. Dave Clements rounding out the top 5. Richard Hunter in 6th position. Paul Wood 7th. Justin Ruggia in 8th. Joshua Burden for Vision Sim Racing in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Edward Foster. Chris Pellet for Pulse Racing Team in the 11th position. Bruce Ross in the 12th position. Scrolling on is Carl Raper, Damon Mulqueen, who is driving for Synergy Sim Racing, not in the safety car tonight, so apologies for that error there. Justin Delegan in 15th, Jordan Cullis 16th, Simon Nicholson in 17th position, Timothy Phoeben in 18th, Martin Crisp 19th, and Christopher Tomlin for Drop Bear Motorsports rounding out the top 20. Alex Court for DPR Racing in the 21st position, Stephen Bartholomew for Ridderback Racing in 22nd, Lockhart Brownlee for 24th, Nick Sanfilippo in 24th, Aaron Specchio 25th, Shane Best 26th, Nathan Huppets into 27th position, Ben Arthur 28th, Michael Holsworth in 29th, and rounding out the top 30 is Tim Mulford, and the rest of your drivers appearing on your screen as we cycle through them.
And the great thing with this circuit is a short pace lap, so the guys just coming through the Porsche curves at the moment, and not too far away from a start of this one. Really looking forward to seeing whether or not the BMW can have the same pace that they showed last week out at Daytona. They were really surprising. Although we did get a Ferrari win, they sort of surprised us there as well, but the pace of those BMWs was very, very good in a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely. As I see a bit of a corrected field. Apologies for that. That was what was showing on the grid as the cars were moving away. But yeah, we've got Josh Burden currently on the pole position, so I do apologise for that. That was what was showing on the live timing at the time as I was going through the grid. But yeah, we're just waiting for the pace car to come through now, and it's just about to come into the pit lane. We'll be out away for 45 minutes of action here.
Yeah, Josh Burden really holding up the field here. He's got Lee Vernenberg alongside him, Aiden Lithwaite not too far behind, so it's really slow formation lap to get the start of this one, which is really going to unsettle a few guys as they start to build up the pace now and swing through to start this one off. And 45 minutes on the clock, I should say, and we are ready to...
So Josh Burden gets a huge getaway over Lee Vandenberg for Mach 1 Esports as they're coming through the turn number 1, heading up into the Dunlop curve, and looks as though that they are going to go too wide through the middle of the pack and pretty much make it all the way through to turn 1 as they head over the crest of the Dunlop curve into turn number 4, as we've got a couple of position changes as Timothy Phoeben falling down behind his teammate of Dave Clemens, and Phoeben making a mistake as well, so he's losing even more positions as they're coming up through Tete Rouge and onto the Mulsanne for the first time.
Yeah, not a great start from him. He's down 15 spots. Almost looks like he may have also got a slowdown. He's come to the inside of the Mulsanne there to allow a lot of cars past, so that's going to hinder his run through here tonight. You see a big field of cars going through. Looks like John Hurlin gone through, Dave Miller, Alex Court. So quite a lot of guys going through, and that car of Tim Phoeben not looking very happy at the moment. But up front, we've got a really strong battle. Nathan Happets, Lee Vandenberg getting involved in this as well. So Josh Burden has got his eyes in the mirror and very, very defensive on this early run as they get onto the second portion of the Mulsanne.
Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful with battling, especially through the Mulsanne chicanes. It'll end up costing you quite a lot of time if you go too wide through the chicanes, but it looks as though that we've got Aiden Lithwaite going up into the 3rd position, moving that Ferrari up 1 position. It's good for the RSA Esports driver, getting the job done over Nathan Huppets. That Ferrari's very, very quick in a straight line, as we saw last season through Dominic Ferraris. Dominic not on the grid today, but certainly the Ferrari is well represented here, as well as the BMW's got a couple of Fords out there, as well as Porsches as well. So
yeah, great to see a good diversity of cars still in the top 10. We've got almost all manufacturers, actually all manufacturers are represented. So a Ford in there in the hands of Dave Clement sitting in 10th, the Porsche of Aidan Gardner in the 6th position. And then we've got a fistful of BMWs and another Ferrari in there. Matt Morris having a good run as well. He's down a couple of spots from where he started, down in the 21st position, but look for him to be moving up the field in the not too distant future. You can see him getting a run down towards Arnage, and he might actually get a move done, or if not before they run into Indianapolis.
So into Indianapolis they go for the first time, and the BMW driver, Tim Phoeben, trying to follow through with Matt Morris, but unable to do so. Dulligan placing his car right on the inside of where he needed to be and holds that 21st position. Through on those they go. Good traction for Matty Morris to get a gap of half a second over Dulligan. There's that Paul Wood as well, trying to put pressure on Simon Nicholson, privateer, up into the Porsche curves. That Ferrari up on the inside and gets he doesn't get the job done. There's a bit of contact as well, so both of those drivers are off. That'll cost both of those at least 1 position. Paul Wood falling back behind Brenton Wilkins and Edward Foster as well, so hugely costly mistake for Paul Wood, finding himself out of the top 30.
Yeah, I think he might have also had a little bit of contact as well with the inside wall there at the start of the Dunlop curves, which is going to impact that car a little bit in a straight line, but we'll keep an eye on that. We're seeing Aaron Specchio a 30-second stop and hold for some collision as well, so that's going to hurt him as well. He's currently sitting well in the order, but that will drop him a huge way down. Looks like, Aiden Lithwaite with a spin as well, I believe. He's dropped well down at the order right now. He is going nowhere fast, so there he is on the outside, keeping away, letting everyone get through, so that's a huge loss for him. He finds himself down now into the 19th position. Actually, will lose that spot to Matt Morris there going through.
Yeah, we're just going to try and bring up the replay on that one. See what happened. So you got Lithwaite coming up to the entry to turn 1. And yeah, it's just the car bouncing over the curbs, and yeah, unfortunately, critical mistake for him, as he has to watch all of the cars go through, and he rejoins safely, having to cut over the curb there. He'll get a slowdown penalty for that as well, but finds himself in the 24th position, so he's got a lot of work to do from here, but still 40 minutes to go, so he's got a lot of time to recover.
Yeah, it's going to be a long recovery run for him there, so he'll need to play it safe with where he finds a teammate when they come in for their one and only pit stop tonight. Obviously, all these cars will be down the lane. 45-minute race, 1 mandatory pit stop for them. We'll keep an eye on when he does come in, but if he is able to drop in with a team or a teammate or a rival that he can get a good draft with, that'll help him in the long run go back up. Lee Vandenberg now promotes himself up into the first position. I think a little bit of contact there with himself and Josh Burden. We might have to see if we can get a replay on that one, but Vandenberg's car off to the inside wall there through the second chicane. The rest of these cars are coming down. Vandenberg, little defensive, not moving under the brakes there, and actually, apologies to Josh Burden, it was no contact from him, that car just rotating on its own there, so that's a very big costly mistake. That has dropped Vandenberg down to the 25th position, so that's a lot of work for him, and he finds himself now down behind Aiden.
So at the moment it's a Fusion Sim Racing 1-2. Huppert's ahead of Burden, as Burden trying to go around the outside, or he's going to prevent Pearson from getting the run. DPR driver very, very close to the 2 teammates in Fusion Sim Racing. Adam Gardner not far behind in the Porsche. Porsche doing very, very well, as to be a little bit to my surprise. I would have expected it to be a little bit further down, but certainly with this balanced performance that the AMF admins have been able to put out, it's certainly great to see that it's not just all BMWs up the front, but certainly looking that way at the moment, with only 1 Porsche and 1 Ferrari in the top 10.
Yeah, Porsche looking reasonably settled. Big test, I think, for these mid-mount cars, is especially coming through here in the Porsche cars, just to see how well they float through. And looking at Gardner's car there at the back end, not really getting away from him at all. So that's going to inspire a lot more confidence. Or as we say that, he gets a little wiggle there and will lose a spot to Carl Reaper, just going through, potentially going to lose another spot to Julian Kilsenbeck just behind.
So Columbus Inc. just moving up into the 5th position. So he promoted up into the top 5. Pearson still in 4th position. Burden holding on to the 1st position for lap number, or start of lap number 3. As we've got 3 drivers into the pit lane: Tim Phoeben, Dave Miller, Lee Vandenberg into the pit lane. So we've got, I think, Steve Bartholomew as well into the pits as well. So a little bit early. As we've got Ray Oliver, no further action for causing a collision on lap number 1. The driver, 182 driver. So small incident we missed, but no further action towards that driver.
Neil Pearson getting a really strong run as well. A little further down the order though, Tim Mulford in a strong battle here with Lockheed Brownlee in the Porsche there. So these guys working their way through the Tetraroos. Probably Tetraroos one of the key points on this circuit to try and avoid an off track. If you can set the car up right, carry optimal momentum, you can really get yourself in for a nice run, but just overdoing that little touch, and potentially going to see those guys get a slowdown penalty like we did on the opening lap.
Yeah, Mulford currently in the 29th position at the moment. Just falling a little bit behind the Porsche of Lockhart Brownlee. Deep under brakes, the Ferrari driver goes. Brenton Hawkins listening position to Phil Otto. Just in front of this battle here. Also got Richard Hunter losing position to Martin Crisp, trying to go around the outside and getting the job done. So BMW driver doing an exceptional job at the moment, up into the top 10. Last season's rookie champion was Martin Crisp. As well, so into the top 10 he goes. Alex Court into the 8th position, just losing a place to Scott Gamble. Into the Mulsanne corner. Well, he's got one Mac 1 car, that's Gamble running wide on the exit there. Martin Crisp will move into the slipstream of the DPR car of Alex Court.
Up front, we've got another change of position. Carl Reaper getting his car up into second, gets the nose in there just before they tip into Indianapolis. So that's a strong move. And he's come a long way. He's down only 4th position last time by the line, so he's moving well up through this field at the moment. Sets his sights now forward, Josh Burden ahead of him. And the BMW's occupying the first 4 positions. So those cars are going very, very well. They're actually starting to extend a little bit of a gap over Adam Gardner and in the Porsche there for Mark 1 Esports. So we'll keep an eye just to see whether that gains any further, and then right behind him you've got another gaggle of BMWs as well. So the BMW at this point in time seems to be the form car, where last season when we were here, we had the Ferrari up the front end, we had a couple of Fords up there as well, and the Fords at this point, quickest Ford down into 13th position right now.
Yeah, it looks as though that Dave Clemens is potentially struggling a little bit, being down in the 13th position, but still certainly the highest placed forward. The next highest placed forward from Clemens is Nick Sanfilippo for Pulse Racing Team, who is in 19th. So actually the Ford's well represented here as well this season compared to last season as well. So it's always good to see that all manufacturers getting a run, as Braden Nash getting position over Phil Otto, as well as we've got one of the BMWs off. I think that is Otto. It is. Just trying to recover through the Ford chicane. He'll have a slow down penalty for that.
Yeah, getting a slowdown on the run onto the start-finish line, probably not the worst spot, because it will give you plenty of time to cover that and recover before you get down onto the Mulsanne, where you really want to be at key strength. Carl Raper just up now into first position, so he's actually extending a little bit of a gap as the 2 Fusion Sim cars behind start to battle out. Neil Pearson also still hanging tight with this little group.
Let's bring up the replay of the overtake as they come through to start lap number 4. And it was a good run through the final corner for Carl, and just getting the job done over Josh Burden into turn 1 through the Dunlop curve, and moves up into the first position. As we go back to live, still leading is Carl. Huppert's all over his gearbox.
And likewise, just behind you got Neil Pearson right on the back of Josh Burden. So we could see 2 positional changes as Nathan gets that car up the inside, and he should have that move well and truly cleared, yeah, before they get into the chicane there. So that's another good move. So I think we're going to see these top 4 really switching positions throughout the entirety of this.
Just got John Halloran, the SF Esports Racing, all over the back of Matt Morris for Los Angeles Motorsports Magazine, as they were coming into the second part of the Mulsanne chicane. This battle was only about a 10th of a second, so really, really close between this battle pack here. Is Martin Crisp, Jordan Cullis, Matt Morris, John Halloran, and Chris Pellet. Just a little bit further behind, he's got Justin Ruggier all over his gearbox.
Yeah, while the battle for Chris Pallett and Justin Ruggier heats up as well, not too far behind, you've also got Shane Best and the recovering Aidan Litherwaite as well. So Aidan, after his spin, has worked his way back into 19th. Still plenty of work for him to do to get back up towards the pointy end, but he also does have a pit stop still left to come in. Lee Vandenberg, who we saw having the off-track excursion at the second chicane there on the Mulsanne, down in 39th, but having already taken his 1 pit stop tonight. So we'll keep an eye on him moving up. Lap times last time by, actually a little slower than probably what we would have thought. He did a 4:26 comparative to our leaders running a 3:49. So a little bit of work there left to do for Lee.
Yeah, fastest man on the track last lap was Braden Nash for RSI Esports. He put in 3:47.4, but has lost touch with Simon Nicholson. Potentially a mistake on this lap. But looking at the sector times this lap, it doesn't look that way. As he's coming through the Porsche curves right now, he's got Edward Foster just behind him for JP Simshed.
Yeah, it's quite a good run for Foster. He's up 5 spots from where he started. Likewise, Braden Nash currently up 25 from where he started as well. So those guys having a good run towards the...
Also see that Nathan Huppers has been able to get past Carl Raper into the first position. So that was an overtake that we missed that was likely into the Porsche curves. Being one of the most likely opportunities to pass. And it's got actually quite a bit of a gap over Carl to the tune of about 1.4 seconds. So Hupper's been able to break away. That's going to be pretty critical for him to gap this pack of 3 behind him. Got Pearson just in behind this train as well. Done a fantastic job. I think he was round 1 winner this season. Sorry, no. He has been a race winner this season. Has Pearson. So trying to get back up there as well for DPR.
Yeah, I think out of these top 4, Neil Pearson probably the best placed here, because if he can hang in the draft of Josh Burton and Carl there, he's going to be able to save quite a bit of fuel. And the minute he sees those guys in front jump in for the lane, I would expect that he would come in as well. He will get the benefit though of a shorter pitch stop, which could potentially see him go ahead of these 3.
You got also Richard Hunter, Dave Clemens, Scott Gamble and Alex Court. Battle for 8th through 11th. We've got 3 wide action going into the second chicane. Dave Clemens just backing out of that. Scott Gamble were on the outside of Alex Court.
Yeah, there's a really strong run from these 3. Court, a little bit the odd man out here in between the Mark 1 sandwich, but holding his own, really smart driving there from Clemens. I don't think he was going to quite get that move done with the 3 wide into the chicane. Elects to drop back in, which is a smart idea there, but we are going to see Court potentially get this move done around the outside, and it's actually a bit of contact there, so that's really going to put an end to his run forward.
Certainly something for the stewards to look at as there's contact with Gamble and Court. Court getting back underway with the battle with Aidan Luthwaite, Chris Pellett. And I think Shane Best in behind that as well.
Yeah, when you're running down into the final corner there of the Mulsanne, it's very easy to see those kinds of incidents come, because especially if you're on the outside, you're trying to swing across, line up for the straight braking, and unfortunately for the guy on the inside, in this case Dave Clemens, not really having a lot of room. Oh, sorry, Scott Gamble not having a lot of room in front of him. Unfortunately, so that coming together. But these 3 underway still. Richard Hunter, in the back behind this group. Matt Morris not too far behind, only about 2 seconds at the moment. So he's starting to break away a little bit from John Halloran just behind. So these guys are working pretty well. But that battle further back, Chris Pellett and Justin Ruggier still going strong. These guys are fighting all the way through the Porsche Curves 2 wide action, which is not where you want to be through here with the speeds that these cars carry. So good to see Ruggier just dropping in behind, but he is not letting go of Chris Pallett.
We're running the give-up scheme of Chris Pellett at the moment. We've got Ruggier trying to look up the inside, but he's actually going to get diving into the pit lane along with Luthwaite and Alex Court. He's got another one of the Pulse Racing team drivers going into the pits as well. So pit lane window is open as we're coming up to 19.5 minutes elapsed into the race. see if we can bring up any pit stop times for any of the drivers that have pitted so far, and it looks as though that most drivers are opting for the 17-second pit stop. There's potential for it to go for an extra lap here tonight. I think we'll get 11 laps in potentially today, maybe even 12. So drivers certainly unsure of whether it's going to go one extra lap. We've seen that Tim Phoeben taking 14.8 seconds of fuel, so he is looking to go as light as possible.
A little further up, we got a pass going on Julian Kilsenvac going through there, and that was a move on Adam Gardner. Actually, Adam able to redress that on the exit. Likewise, Neil Pearson up in that front group of four has managed to get past Josh Burden in the Fusion Sim Racing BMW, but Burden hanging tight here, so he'll be looking to readdress that spot. I don't think he'll get the move done into the chicane, but potentially down to the back of the Mulsanne, turn 4, he should be able to get another positional change done.
You see that Burden falling back behind Pearson, so Pearson up into the podium position. It's a good run from him. As you see, Paul Wood as well, trying to move up the inside of Simon Nicholson, and not able to get the job done as he runs deep, as well as Nicholson. There'll be a huge slowdown penalty for that to Thomas Wilkes. A little bit too far back at the moment to capitalise on that. It's about 7 seconds and closing from that mistake. Good. Luthwaite and Phoeben side by side into the second chicane.
I think Luthwaite potentially might pull out of this, which he does. Don't forget, these guys have already come down the lane for their respective stops as well. So Luthwaite and Phoeben at the moment, the two faster cars out there on track. Actually, apologies, Justin Rougier just ahead of these guys has also pitted as well. So effective leader for the guys pitting, currently down 24th with that of Justin Rougier, but the pit difference between where they are all circulating on tracks at the moment will potentially bring this closer together once we see those top guys all drop in the lane for their respective stops.
See that there's a drive-through penalty for Jack Anderson, car number 118. So whether it was a spin that he had coming back onto the circuit from a collision with another driver, as Luthwaite going up the inside into Indianapolis and getting the job done over Timothy Phoeben. So Adam Luthwaite up into the 25th position. Certainly recovering from his spin at turn number 1. Just trying to find out who is the leader of the drivers who've pitted, and that's Rougier at the moment, who sits in the 24th position. A couple more drivers in. Magella Happy Cat Racing of Carl Roper into the pits, as well as Paul Gallo, John Halloran, Chris Pellett, Nick Sanfilippo, Adam Gardner, Braden Nash. So a lot of drivers coming in as well, as we've climbed over the halfway point in the race.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see when Chris Pallett does drop back in after his stop, because we saw him only a couple of laps ago battling with Rougier before he dropped in the lane for his stop. So be interesting to see whether Justin's able to actually gain anything as a result of this, and might actually see those two with a straight out positional change. Josh Burden still having a strong run, sitting in the second spot. The gap between himself and Nathan Happett's now out to 4.2 seconds. You see there on the timing tree just to the top left of screen. But another good run from both Fusion drivers here. Oh, that will be a slowdown for Josh Burden there, missing the run through the chicane there horribly. So that will potentially help Neil Pearson out. Julian Kilsenberg just a little further behind. Those two will start making positional gains ahead.
We've got Dave Clebens, Matt Morris, Scott Gamble. This battle just up ahead. coming up into the second chicane. For the back end of the top 5, as they're going to go single file pretty much. Is that Morris, Gamble, Clements, and Hunter. Just looking a little bit further back as well. Nick Sanfilippo trying to move up the inside of his teammate Martin Crisp and getting the job done. Moving up into the 18th position, running a little bit wide there. Got to be careful of that slowdown penalty on the exit there as well. Even though you're running wide, you still can't get it for cutting the curb on the inside. And Crisp coming back at the Ford driver, as well as Lee Vandenberg in the 20th position, trying to gain some positions from these teammates.
Yeah, well, I think we were just talking about before with the guys that have come through the lane and pitted. Justin Ruggier coming in that lap earlier than Chris Pella has actually promoted him 5 positions further up the grid. So strong running from Ruggier now up in the 14th spot. So he's having a fantastic run and slightly quicker pit stop time, which has overall helped him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've got Sanfilippo going back up into 17th, and just looking a little bit further backwards, we've got Dave Miller for Redback Racing Team in the 23rd position. Very, very close to Jason Dulligan. Dulligan doing a really good job just in the 22nd position. He's having a good drive. The amateur driver currently sitting in the top 5 within his own division, so having a strong run. As we've got our 2 leaders into the pit lane, Josh Burden and Nathan Hupperts. Neil Pearson into the lane as well, as Julian Clemensink as well. Matt Morris into the pit lane, Scott Gamble, Richard Hunter, I think Dave Clemens as well. Phil Otto is the next car to not have pitted as well. We'll see where Hupperts in relation to Carl Roper coming out of the pit lane, as Huppert's still in the box. He's actually left the pit lane right now, so actually taking 3 seconds left worth of fuel, and you can see the difference just in how far Carl has fallen back. He's actually fallen back quite a lot, actually, to the tune of about 8 seconds. So slow stop for Carl in the pit lane, lost about 4 seconds, and then just through the in lap and out lap, both Hupperts and Burden have gained that massive lead. So the Fusion drivers looking certainly in a strong position for the conclusion of the race.
Yeah, definitely. They had a really good stop for both those 2 Fusion cars, and as a result of that, which you say, they've retained that lead spot. We're still seeing a few guys moving up the field. Justin Ruggier now in that 11th position, so he's going further up. Dave Clements, Matt Morris likewise coming up the pointy end of the field as well. So we've got a really good spread of cars in the top 10. Unfortunately, the first Porsche down in the 11th spot, but short of that, we've got a lot of BMWs up here at the moment. You see Ruggier having a really strong fight. Dave Clements right behind him in that Ford, and these guys have not got too far apart since the change of the pit stop, so they're working very, very well together. Just ahead of them, you've also got Pat Gallo and Matt Morris. So the Mike 1 eSports cars well on the move here in the final half of this race.
Certainly, Gallo still within the top 10, putting on the pressure between himself and Matt Morris and getting the job done up into the 8th position. Got to be careful with that in terms of overtaking too early, but Matt Morris not able to get up alongside. Gallo running slightly deep, and that'll compromise this run over the exit of the chicane.
It'll still be a hard run here for Matt Morris to get a move on just ahead of them as well. We've got Richard Hunter trying to get a move done on Scott Gamble as well. Then into turn 4, so we'll jump up quickly to that. And as you see, running 2 wide, that's a good move from Hunter there. Pulls to the inside, gets that position changed and done. But this, we'll see Scotty Gamble have another run down into Arnage and potentially down into Indianapolis, as he's right on the draft here. A little further back, Matt Morris, Pat Gallo still going at it. And then Justin Rougier and Dave Clements as well. So those three packs of 6 drivers, one after each other, all fighting along. Here we see Scott Gamble getting a move done down on the run into Arnage, clears that easily, and he will retake the 5th spot.
Now I've just noticed that the driver of Carl Raper has fallen down quite a long way. See what his issue was coming up into the second chicane, just ahead of Neil Pearson, and it just looks as though that it was the same mistake that was at Lee Vandenberg on the first lap heading into the second chicane. So same place, but a different lap, and caught out 2 different drivers. So that second chicane proving very, very difficult to list with the BMW drivers out there, and unfortunate for the Magella Happy Cat Racing driver. Certainly looking strong for his. I'm pretty sure it's his debut race, certainly this season. I'm not sure whether it's his first race in this series. But Carl back in the pit lane. It's a very, very long tow here. So back in the 46th position at this time.
Yeah, it will definitely hurt his run. He was having a really solid run there, looking for what could have been a podium position, and unfortunately that same issue that we saw for Lee Vandenberg occurring again. But hopefully we'll see him potentially get that car back out if he is able to tow it and return. But if not, we look forward to hopefully catching him back out again in future races. Thomas Vukic having a solid run, up 21 spots from where he started. He's closing in on the back of Edward Foster in the JPS Simsheds Porsche just ahead. And these guys looking pretty racy right now, down in 22nd, 23rd respectively. They're gaining a little bit over Michael Whiting behind. You can see in the Fishy Motorsports BMW there. But lap times for these two, very, very competitive. Only about half a second between either of these 2 drivers.
Absolutely. Just to try and bring up the previous lap times for these 2 drivers. And lap number 7 was where Lucas appeared as they go side by side into the first chicane. And it looks as though that the BMW of Wilkes is getting the job done over Edward Foster, as our overlays a little bit messed up there, but that was just due to the position change for Wilkes and Foster. Had a position change as well, just a little bit further up as well. See if I can find out who that was. That was Richard Hunter passing Scott Gamble for the 5th position. Also Ruggier under pressure from Pat Gallo. Bit of argy-bargy.
Yeah, a little bit of contact in that, and actually that's going to give a really solid run too to Aiden Litherwaite there. 3 wide for these guys on the exit, and be interesting to see whether that Ferrari of Litherwaite's got enough legs to get a move done. But the BMW coming back strong there for Pat Gallo.
Absolutely, Gallo up on the inside of Ruggier. Ruggier just ahead, but it looks as though that Gallo's going to have the inside, but Ruggier under brakes, gets the job done, protects that 8th position. Porsche's going to go, able to go a lot deeper under the brakes, and is able to protect that position. So good driving there from Super 2 driver in Ruggier.
Yeah, Rouge are able to extend a little bit out of Arnage, so he's moving away, just a little bit, fallen back a little bit from Matt Morris and Richard Hunter just ahead. Those guys are still scrapping out for the 6th and 7th position in the Ferraris, but we'll watch the Porsche here run through the Porsche curves and looking very, very well planted, gets the nose in nice and keeping really, really good speed. Just behind that, Aidan Litherwaite starting to close in on this off-camber run. As the guys work their way up towards the Ford chicane. He's got a lot of speed here, so potentially going to try and a move here as you see him jinking to the inside. And I think he might just back it off, so that's a smart move there, just keeps it in line, but he is showing that he is trying to get past here right now.
Yeah, it's got the weather up on the screen as well. It's looking as though it's pretty cool out there for the drivers, 22 degrees track temperature. I don't think that there will be enough time for night conditions, with it being close to 8:45 simulated time. But I think there will be just enough light within the end of this race that will be have still light in this race. So I don't think it'll be fully dark out there by the conclusion of the race. But in saying that, though, it's still, especially to Tetra Rouge, as we saw, we've got quite a lot of low light hitting the track as well. That'll be certainly challenging for the drivers of Litherwaite into the slipstream of Pat Gallo.
Yeah, trying to get a move done here. He's going real deep under the brakes here. I think he's going to get this one done as he slows it up into the first set of chicanes, just puts that Ferrari ahead, so that's a big move there for Litherwaite. Hopefully, doesn't look like he's compromised the run out, so he should be able to utilise that draft ahead from Justin Ruggier. Right behind that, though, you've also got Braden Nash trying to close in on this group of 4 as well, so we'll keep an eye on that. A little further up, you can just see the Ferraris still of Matt Morris, Richard Hunter and Scott Gamble in the BMW. They're all battling on the run up into the second chicane here. These three haven't really been that far apart for the last couple of laps. Hunter getting a move done and promotes himself now up into the 5th position. But between Hunter and Gamble, those guys have been swapping spots quite a lot in recent laps.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hunter into the top 5. Saw that he passed Scott Gamble, I think it was the last lap. So this battle's still very, very close. It's Gamble looking to the inside, but not getting the run on the inside and having to back out of that one as they're coming through the Mulsanne corner. Bit of an update further up the front. Nathan Huppert's has opened up a 6.5 second gap over Josh Burden and a 5.1 second gap from Burden to Pearson. So that is your top 3 at the moment. Kleinbusink further 8 seconds back. And then 2.9 seconds to Scott Gamble, as Gamble very, very deep and pulls it up just. It looks as though that going over the curb that he wasn't going to be able to pull it up, but he did.
And then Matt Morris with the cheeky one up the inside as well, getting another spot there on Richard Hunter. So those 3 really well matched. This fight between these guys is actually starting to bring Ruggier, Gallo and Phoeben up into the mix as well. So I wouldn't be surprised within the next lap that we turn this from a 3-car battle up into at least a 5, if not 6-car battle.
Yeah, we'll just look at the lap times with this battle here. 349.8 for Gamble, 349.1 for Hunter, 350. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, it's a 350.2 for Hunter, and then potentially be a little bit slower as well this lap as they coming through to the Ford chicane for the 11th time. And we'll just get a bit of an update on the lap times as they cycle through to start lap number 11. So 349.7 for Gamble, Matt Morris with an invalidated lap, Ruggier with 348.5, so he closed up 1.2 seconds at least on this battle ahead, as Ruggier up ahead of Matt Morris, so good move for him, who's up into the 7th position.
And that slowdown for Morris very costly there, dropping another position down into 8th. So it looks like he's got that one cleared now, so he will get another opportunity at the end of the Mulsanne into the first chicane. If he gets the car through nicely, he does, through Techerouz, and he should be able to utilise the draft of the back of Rugia Porsche there and set himself up for another one. But those guys have actually now started to drop Pat Gallo and Adam Lithwaite well off the back. Those guys now just on 2 seconds respectively behind this fight.
Yeah, just looking at the straight line speed for Matt Morris, it's closing up on 290 kilometers an hour and not able to get the run onto the Porsche. He's actually a little bit cautious through the first part of the chicane, losing a little bit of time, gap up to 0.8 of a second. So Rugia certainly putting the hammer down, trying to close up to the battle ahead. It's 5th and 6th position, Gamble and Hunter. Just looking a little bit further back as well, I've seen that Chris Pellet, David Miller exchanging positions pretty much straight after straight, and also you've got Dulligan, Crisp and Gardner in this battle behind as well. Thomas Wilkes running off the circuit as well, so I can bring up a quick replay of that. So into the first chicane, and just losing it under the brakes. And it seems to say that the BMW drivers have been struggling to, at least under the downshift phase of the braking zones of the chicanes, have been able to, well, they haven't been able to pull it up as best as they would have liked. So that's another one of the BMW drivers falling to that mistake. But it was at the first chicane this time.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the car goes around. I've got a feeling the guys may be running just a touch too much trail brake on that, which is resulting in those cars rotating. We see a little further up, Lithwaite and Pat Gallo still fighting down over this 9th and 10th spot, and a positional change there with Lithwaite getting the nose ahead, so solid move from him. And these guys now still 1.3 seconds off the bat. You can just see the back of that green Ferrari for Matt Morris and the Velocity Motorsports car just ahead. Morris actually dropped a little further down now. Richard Hunter has also lost a position to Justin Rugia as well, and Rugia is setting himself up to have a crack at the 5th spot. He's got Scott Gamble just ahead of him, and he's coming along very, very nicely now in that Porsche.
Yeah, just picking up the replay of Rugia and Hunter. So Hunter was trying to go or follow through on Gamble, but Rugia almost getting the double, but not able to get the run on Gamble as well, and having to sit back behind the Mach 1 Esports driver. And Gamble able to open up that gap just that little bit. So it looks as though the front two on their final lap now, just coming across the line, as we've got near enough 43 minutes a lap, so there will be time for one more lap in this 45-minute event here. It's been so quick. It's been so much action here. It's been certainly enthralling race here for run number 4 of the AMF GT Series here at Le Mans.
Yeah, been great racing all around. I think from all these drivers, we've seen some really solid moves going up and down. We've seen a few issues that a few guys will work on with the driving technique over the course of the next week, but all in all, it's been fantastic, and I would love to see whether Rugia is able to get a pass done here on Scott Gamble. I know he's going to give it his all for this final lap, and it'd be interesting to see whether he can drag that Porsche up into the top 5 and at least expense of one of the BMWs, with BMW currently holding those top 5 spots.
Where do you think Rugia will make the move? Because you've got a lot of overtaking opportunities, as I say, that is going to go through on Gamble, but also you've got to watch out for the potential overtaking spots on the rest of the Mulsanne and through Indianapolis as well, up in Bosco. So when do you think that it'll be just defensive mode from here for Rugia, or do you reckon that it'll be a case of letting him pass as or Rugia runs wide through the first part of the chicane? We've got Hunter as well trying to put pressure on Gamble as well. So
yeah, look, I think Rugia is probably relying on a little bit of help from Richard Hunter in the back there, having a bit of a battle. As you can also see Lithwaite and Morris going at it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Rugia is able to hold position here. Look for him to maybe get the exit off Arnage and get the run up into Porsche curves. If he can do that, I think he'll seal the deal, because that Porsche's been extremely strong getting off the line, especially through those slower corners. The advantage for the BMW and the Ferrari behind that we're seeing is through those mid-corner high-speed sections. The BMW certainly got it in spades in the long runs down the Mulsanne and drags the Ferraris along, but those Ferraris are really, really quick on the run in through to Indianapolis. So we potentially could see any one of these 5 potentially jumping a couple of big spots here.
So they're just trying to keep an eye on where our leaders are at the moment. They've only got about 3/10 of the lap to go as they're coming up through Indianapolis right now. Nathan Huppert's has got a 5.6 second gap over Josh Burton. Assuming no mistakes, it'll be a form finish for Fusion Sim Racing in 1-2. Klumbasink and Pearson as well, very, very close as well. 4/10 of a second gap as Ruggia defending, as Gamble going around the outside, and a great move for Gamble. Ruggia going to try the cutback, but not able to do that. Morris up the inside as well on, is that Richard Hunter? So this battle.
And Litherwaite going as well, try and get involved in this. So 3 wide with the Ferrari.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut back to our 2 leaders as we got one of the Fords into the barrier. Yellow flags will be there for that section of the track, but for Fusion Sim Racing, it's been a very, very dominant display here for the drivers of Huppert's and Burton, and through the Ford chicane for the final time they go. It'll be Huppert's taking the win as they taking their time getting across the line, and Klumbasink able to hold off Neil Pearson, who will round out the podium. Neil Pearson coming across the line now to take 4th position. Scott Gamble able to hold off Justin Ruggia for 5th and 6th position. Matt Morris, Aidan Lutherwaite in the 8th position. Richard Hunter running at 9th position, and 10th going to Pat Gallo. Clements able to hold off Braden Nash in the 11th and 12th position, so see if we can cycle through a little bit further back. Dave Miller in the 19th position, not able to get past Adam Gardner, who takes the 18th position. 19th to Miller and Dulligan rounding out the top 20. A little bit further back, Aaron Specchio trying to get the job done on Tim Mulford. Powered Pulse Racing team on JP Simshed. And I don't think that the Porsche is going to get it done, as having to check up a little bit and trying to look up the inside, but I don't think it's going to get the job done. So Specchio rounding out the 29th position. Bruce Ross coming up through to the 30th position. Still got quite a number of drivers as well. Just looking a little bit further back, we got Pete Morris, Alex Court, got 1.3 seconds separated between these drivers.
Good to see him still fighting on. I think Peter Morris, or actually potentially could be out of fuel there, as you see one of the Fords there going past. Who was that? That was Aidan Vorlock getting past as well. So that's not great news for that BMW, who's slowly falling further back. I think it could potentially be out of fuel. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Aidan closing on the back of Alex Court ahead for DPR, and these two are going to fight out for the final positions there, down in 40th and 41st respectively.
Yeah, so Vlock certainly not had the best of races here today. Who's in the 41st position at the moment. I said that he did have an off track somewhere, so a mistake for him somewhere, but it looks as though that's Alex Court able to hold off Vlock for the 40th position. We've got Jordan Cullis as well, just a little bit further behind him as well. So Cullis rounding out the top 42. We've got Chris Tomlin coming through for Drop Bear Motorsport as well. We've got see what Paul Jackson is as well. So we've got the last couple of drivers here just coming through before we are able to bring you the final race results here for round number 4 of the championship. Oh, sorry, the AMF GT Series here at Le Mans. And we've got Peter Morris, as you say, out of fuel at the entry to the Porsche curves. Hopefully he'll be able to tow it back to the pits.
Yeah, and then for the non-finish as well, we had Michael Schroeder, Carl Raper, Ray Oliver as well, and then obviously we had the race control guys, Danny Mockwood and Ryan Costad in the booth, keeping an eye on everything happening.
So I'm just about to bring up the final race results here for the 4th round of the AMF GT Series here at Le Mans. So Nathan Huppertz takes the win over his teammate Josh Burton. So only 0.2 of a second gap, but it was a form finish for Fusion Sim Racing. 1-2 for those guys. Supervac Esports, Julian Kleinbersink rounding out the podium. Neil Pearson for DPR Racing, close to Kleinbersink, but not able to get the job done, who finishes 4th. Scott Gamble and Rugia close in the end there with that battle that we were trying to catch up with at the end there. Matt Morris, Aidan Luthwaite, Richard Hunter and Pat Guller rounding out the top 10. Dave Clements in 11th position, Braden Nash 12th, Timothy Phoeben in 13th, Nick Sanfilippo, our highest rookie driver, Liam Vandenberg with his spin on lap number 1 recovering to the 15th position, Martin Crisp, Chris Pellet, Adam Gardner rounding out the top 18. 19th position was Dave Miller. Jason Dulligan rounds out the top 20. Stephen Bartholomew 21st. John Halloran in the 22nd position. 23rd goes to Paul Wood. Phil Otto 24th. Shane Best 25th. PJ Kennedy 26th. Brenton Hawkins and Tim Melford rounding out the 27th and 28th position. Aaron Spezio, Bruce Ross, Lockhart Brownlee, Ben Arthur, Thomas Wilch, Chris Barnes, Michael Whiting in rounding out the top 35. Michael Holsworth, Miles Burgess, Reese Holters, Edward Foster, Adrian Vlock, Alex Court, Jordan Cullis, Christopher Tomlin, Paul Jackson, and those were the drivers that were classified on the lead lap. Peter Morris, Mocha Schroeder, Jack Anderson, Simon Nicholson, Carl Roper, Ray Oliver, and those were the classified finishers as we have our race admins at the bottom there. So we'll see who we have in for driver interviews quickly. Just about to, I think we'll bring in both the Fusion Sim Racing drivers of Nathan Huppertz and Josh Burton, and I'll hand it over to Daniel Leap for driver interviews.
Yeah, g'day fellas. Josh and Nathan, both congratulations, 1 and 2, form finish for Fusion Sim Racing, guys. Fantastic run out there. Looked like you had yourselves a lot of battles early on with a few cars around you, but how was it out there from your perspective?
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, Josh and I had a good result. The start was pretty intense, I guess. We'll just sort of try not to lose too much time and settle into a rhythm and see if we could maybe get a bit of a break on some cars behind and then race at the end.
Well, the cars look really good out there tonight. Was there any issues you guys found as far as tyre life or a few corners you had to be particularly careful of? We know from a couple of guys on the run into the second chicane on the Mulsanne there was a few guys maybe locking up the rear brakes and spinning off. Were there any cautions for you guys after that at those events?
A little bit towards the end. Didn't quite have front end bite in the entry to middle of the corner. That wasn't too bad. You just got to control it, bring your braking markers back a bit, and yeah, happy days.
Yeah, it was a good stable set. I drove the Porsche once during the week, and the rear of that felt a little bit looser through the Porsche curves, and you just had to be a bit more careful on the weight transition through corners. But the BMW set was really, really stable and quite nice, and the car I drive anyway, so I was happy.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, going on from this race last season, we saw the FSR car up there again. In the hands, I think it was Craig Edwards last time out in the Ford, having a really good showing. So great to see you guys continuing on the effort. You guys are really starting to get a good stranglehold on it. And I guess, was it the plan for both of you guys pre-race coming in around the same lap time for pit stops to try and utilise the draft still?
No, just ran as long as we could. We knew we could pretty much run the tank dry, and I think you'll get 7 laps and then take some fuel. So didn't get. It was difficult to stay in the draft and do good lap times. So I should set my quickest lap for the race just without any draft at all. It's just good to be able to do that. So it's happy to run long.
Yeah, I think it's one of those tracks where it's a lot easier to lead, even though you get a massive tow. We've seen at the start of the race, there was a couple of corners I was able to pull away a bit. And then when the others got in front, I didn't really have much for them. So I think leading was the best option if you had the pace.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, once you guys got clear of the pit stops, you really were able to extend the positions there. So, congratulations to both. Really love the form finish for both of you guys coming across the line there. But before we let you go and enjoy the celebration for tonight, was there anyone that you guys would like to give a shout out and a thanks to?
Yeah, just team sponsors, Eclipse Signage, Dripping Paint Graphics, and Daryl Carter Plastering. And yeah, just a big shout out to the team. We haven't done a lot of racing start of the year yet, but we're intending to do a lot more.
Fantastic, guys. Well, again, congratulations on the 1-2 finish for the Fusion Sim Racing team. And hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you guys out for many more races throughout the course of this. This.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Just going to bring up our final driver here for tonight, finishing P3, Julian Kleinbesink. Congratulations, Julian, on the final podium position here tonight. Just tell us a little bit about your race, starting well within the top 10 here tonight, but what were the challenges for yourself here at Le Mans?
Hey guys. Yeah, it was quite a fun race. A very lot of drafting going on. I think the main challenges were trying not to get the slowdown penalties, which are easy to get here if you want to be fast. I was having quite a good battle with Pat and his teammate. And yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the guy in third at the end, but I managed to pass him for podium position, so I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that, was it Carl Roper falling at the first chicane, so was it quite tricky out there with the BMW set tonight, seeing a couple of the drivers falling at the first and second chicanes out there, or was it a pretty manageable setup here tonight?
Yeah, I think it was manageable, as long as you put in some decent practice time. But it's not easy because it's such a long track, and it felt a bit stiff sometimes in the corners, but overall I think it was manageable.
So just turning our attentions to next week, we head to the Daytona. Actually no, it's not. Sorry about that. We head to Map Panorama for the fifth round of the championship, first endurance round of the season as well. So, what are your thoughts heading into the next round of the championship?
Yeah, Bathurst is really tricky, so it's all about survival there, I think. It's very challenging, but a lot of fun. I must admit it's not one of my favorite tracks, but my teammate who wasn't here tonight, it's his favorite track, so I'm hoping he will do really well.
So just before we let you go, Julian, is there anyone that gets it done for you guys? Shout outs or sponsors for the Supervac Esports team?
Yeah, shout out to my teammate Dom and Kyle and Andrew. Hopefully next week we'll have a livery, but yeah, shout out to Supervac Esports.
No worries, Julian. Well, thanks very much for coming to chat to us, and we certainly wish you all the best for the next round of the championship at Bathurst.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, guys. See you later.
So that was our final podium position driver in Julian Kleinbersink. So Daniel, just turning our attentions to next week, as we've got Bathurst in preparation for the real life 12 hour. I see that there's potential for a couple of the drivers. I know that some of them will be heading out to Bathurst for the real 12 hour. But yeah, what are your thoughts heading into the next round of the championship for the AMF GT series?
Look, I mean, Bathurst is one of those great tracks that we have in the service. I really enjoy going around it, especially in the GT cars. It presents its own unique challenges, similar to what we saw at Daytona and going here. Obviously, the big thing is going to be getting the cars cleanly across the top of the mountain. You don't have a lot of runoff room, so for the guys that are able to do it, get in the hunt at the back of the race, they could be really, really well set up. So I think that's going to be critical. Survive that first 40 minutes almost, get ready to race for the last 5. But from what we've seen throughout the course of this championship, there's no easiness, no slowdown for these drivers. They're giving 110% the whole way through, and I think as a result, it's going to provide some fantastic racing. And knowing the caliber of the drivers we've got, I'm sure they'll all be well and truly managing those risks versus reward situations.
Yeah, absolutely. With the I think it's morning race start time for the drivers, so that'll be proving a little bit of a challenge out there for the drivers, but it will certainly be exciting to tune in for the next round of the championship. That'll be at 9:45 AM GMT next Sunday. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, Apex Racing TV on Facebook, Instagram, and also to make sure to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network for upcoming broadcasts as well here on our associated platforms as well. So anything else, Dan, before we pretty much wrap it up here for the 4th round of the AMF GT series here?
Look, no, not a lot for me. I think the main thing we must give a big shout out to not only the drivers that turn up, the guys behind the scenes at Race Control, and obviously the fantastic sponsors, British Raceway, RMS Management, and all the guys that are helping support this fantastic series and going.
Yeah, absolutely. Britsy Raceway, I think it's britsy.com.au. Be sure to check out those guys. They do sim racing, sim racewear, gloves, shirts, and also in the gloves department as well. RMS Race Management Services providing race control services and also hosting the service here tonight, so rms55.com.au. Be sure to check them out as well. But I think pretty much here that'll wrap us up here on Apex Racing, on the iRacing Esports Network. Myself, Scott Newton, and Daniel Lead as well for Apex Racing TV. We'll be signing out, and certainly looking forward to your company for the 5th round of the AMF GT series here. A cracking race it has been, and certainly looking forward to the next round of the championship for what could be certainly a cracking first round of the endurance series. So wishing you all the best and looking forward to your company next week.